Hi there everyone, and welcome to another of my videos today in which I'm going to be discussing my top 5 most favorite fantasy novels of all time. And for those of you who know me and have been around on the channel for a bit, you know that I just love fantasy as a genre, so this was really tough for me. Like, let me just lay that out. It took me hours to kind of choose my 5, and I have a number of honorable mentions, and so I'm going to talk at you here today, and I really hope you enjoy it, and let me know if you share some of my favorites or if you disagree with my favorites. Always up for a book discussion. And as always, please feel free to subscribe to my channel if you like this sort of content. I talk about all things books and writing and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, you can check out my other videos. I'll leave some links throughout my video here today popping up around me, hopefully, with my superior editing skills that I totally have, and, you know, don't Google every 2 seconds when I'm editing my videos. And like the video again if you enjoy it. That would be super helpful for me. It helps me create better content for you all, see what you guys are liking, what you're not liking, what you think I can improve on. And speaking of improving on, you can leave me a comment down below and tell me again, did you like it? If not, why not? I am super open to feedback. This is a newish medium for me, even though I've been doing videos since I think October last year. I'm still super new, and anything I can learn is super amazing for me. This is like one of my favorite platforms now, beyond me obviously sitting down to write my novel, which is in progress always. Oh, and of course, today I'm sporting one of my favorite t-shirts of all time. I love my special bookish merch more than anything in life, apart from my novel, writing, tea, coffee. It's at the top, it's near the top of the list. This specific one is actually from the Common Room shop, and an awesome lady called Hallie runs it. I think I've said her name right, I hope so. I've never actually heard it pronounced, but she's so cool, and she's awesome, small business owner. It's an awesome shop. I'll leave you the link down below for that. And if you manage to watch, Hallie, that's awesome. Hi. Anyone from the Common Room shop, you guys are amazing with everything you do and your passion for bookish stuff. And anyway, let me just jump straight into it, shall we? My top 5 fantasy books. And so just a precursor here, I went for as much direct fantasy genre as I could. So obviously you all know, with you being book lovers like me, that there's a lot of crossover between genres. So with fantasy, and because I love so many cross genres of fantasy, I've tried to keep it as exclusive to true fantasy, so that's your high fantasy, as possible. But a lot of my honorable mentions come from cross genres. So urban fantasy, oh my gosh, my brain, historical fiction fantasy. There's a few that you'll see here, like children's fiction, classical fantasy. They all cross into a couple of different genres, so I've tried to keep it as true to the fantasy element here as I can. Now, with that being said, my 5th most favorite fantasy book, or in this case, a lot of them are fantasy series of all time, is A Song of Ice and Fire. Cue awesome editing to have a picture of the book. This is a series that inspired Game of Thrones, the TV show, and I'm not gonna talk about and cry about the last season of the series. RIP. The book series is amazing. They're super long and kind of intimidating, but I have to say, once I'd started them, I was really glad I did. I mean, in full versions, a lot of the 3rd and 4th, for example, are almost 1,000 pages. They're an investment, and our good friend George R. R. Martin still hasn't finished the writing of, I think we're waiting for book 6. It's been a while. So you persevere, you get through it, because the writing is really cool, the world building is amazing, and the drama, the cutthroat kind of meddling and things within the fantasy era, kind of world that he's created of Westeros and the surrounding continents, is really cool. So I definitely recommend that, even if you've seen the series, because there's a lot of changes that were made for the series, and I think I liked a lot of the series changes, but generally I have to say the book stuff was better. I'm sorry. You'll see if you read it, and you totally should. And my 4th most favorite fantasy book / series of all time, let me just check my notes so I don't mix anything up. There it is the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. Woo! And again, what I'm wearing today off my merchandise. And I read this as a child. and I had it read to me as a child by my parents. It's got a very special place in my heart. A lot of its messages just still resonate with me to this day. Friendship, bravery, overcoming and doing hard things together. It's just magical, literally magical, because magic. So good. Oh my gosh, I'm so funny, everybody. But yeah, I love the writing still, and I love listening to the audiobooks, especially by Stephen Fry. He's got an awesome narrating voice, and he does all the voices when he reads too, which is so cool. So it's just such a favorite for me. I still watch the movies, and I know they're not perfect, but I think they did a darn good job of adapting those books into movies in comparison with some others I can think of, but will not name. My third most favorite fantasy book / series is, that's what I thought, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Oh my gosh, okay. Where do I begin? This is probably one of the longest series I've read. It is 7 books long. I've talked about it on this channel before because it just literally has many pieces of my heart at this time. I love it. The characters are phenomenal. You don't always like, I didn't always like, some of the protagonists, some of the main cast, but they just endear themselves to you. They're just so believable, so human, so whole, and wholesome oftentimes, but also like fraught with danger. The world that was created was amazingly imaginative, and again, played into a lot of the really cool tropes that I love. I mean, like, let's like kind of say forgotten powers, magic that is buried and hidden, and kind of finding royalty, like of lines long descended. It's just a really cool series with really cool characters, and I cried in the last book, my gosh. And I just read them so fast. They were phenomenal, and I want to reread already, and that's unusual for me. I don't normally reread books, just to let you know. And my second most favorite fantasy book / series is, drumroll editing maybe, there it is, The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a phenomenal series if you love Dungeons and Dragons, if you just love like high fantasy at its finest with like amazing quips of humor and just hilarious scenes that are also dark and depressing sometimes. You should definitely read this series. I guess, bad news, like with A Song of Ice and Fire, it is not yet finished. Our good friend Patrick Rothfuss has been busy playing the kind of main character of the novel in Dungeons and Dragons sessions with Acquisitions Incorporated, but he's working on it. I've just Googled it recently, and it is at some point maybe going to come out, and I'm so excited. It's a trilogy with only currently 2 books that are available, 1 that is being finished. Please, I need it like yesterday. And it's just such a cool series. Absolutely literally, I only read it within the last year. It's clawed its way up there, and I'm a huge fantasy lover, but that just trumps so many of like my big choices. And my number 1 most favorite fantasy book / series of all time is, another drum roll, because, you know, but I guess you guys already know, because it's Lord of the Rings. Yes, it is. Oh my gosh. I mean, the movies are phenomenal. Not perfect, but they're pretty darn close. And we have Christopher Lee to thank for that. God rest his soul. He was an amazing human being and an awesome actor and huge Tolkien fan. The actual novels, like I've read them actually really recently, within the last 3 to 4 years. And I still just think of them and the description, the like lush landscape that Tolkien presents, the languages he created, the characters that are so endearing and so just phenomenal. Just the way they're constructed seem very basic on paper, but the more you go with them on their journey, the more they evolve and shape, and you become just so involved in what they're doing, and that the fellowship, the feeling of brotherhood, and oh my gosh, I literally could do a whole other video talking about my love of Lord of the Rings. So I will probably do that at some point on the channel. If you're interested, tell me down below in a comment and subscribe to me, you know, doing all the good stuff. Calls to action, I like to say. So that is my absolute top. I was kind of thinking in doing my listing that a couple of the previous I'd mentioned could knock it off the top spot, but I just really thought about the impact Lord of the Rings has had on my life. and just how I conduct myself with people, the good I look for in people, and the good I see in dark times, and I just think there's no way I could do that. Lord of the Rings is my peak, my pinnacle, my life, for lack of sounding dramatic. And now my honorable mentions, which I am going to grab my notebook for because there are a lot. Don't judge me. My honorable mentions. The first one here is Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, obviously. My other one that I chose that was really difficult for me to not include in my top 5 is the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. It's an awesome series. I just haven't read as much of it as I'd like to, so that's on my to be read, and that will probably claw its way up there, so you might see me doing another video in the next couple of years, you know, just kind of revising my list. And then the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, that is a relatively new thing I've read and loved. Just the kind of depth of that fantasy world was phenomenal. And this is kind of where we get more into, I guess, a little bit more urban fantasy-esque, and you'll see what I mean. I guess the next high fantasy I just loved was The Court of Thorns and Roses. The only reason it didn't get into my top 5 is that I do not like the main character. At all, but I love the rest of them. And I bet people out there are like, Amy, why on earth do you like a series where you don't like the main character? That's so weird. Trust me, I just don't know how to explain it to you. There's just a lot about the main character that I don't find very likable. Sorry for people who do. Again, I could probably do a video on that. Although I did do a video on Court of Thorns and Roses. You should check it out. I'll put it somewhere on the screen here for you. And then my urban stuff, urban fantasy faves, City of Bones and the Last Hour series by Cassandra Clare. That is Shadowhunter stuff, and I talk about it enough on this channel for you all to know that it means almost as much as life does to me. Not to be dramatic or anything. And again, another urban fantasy I adore is Percy Jackson by Rick Riordan. Again, this also crosses into historical boundaries. And then a new favorite of mine, I'm still reading, but it's just already up there for me, is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. Just a phenomenal series with awesome characters. Again, like, it's a pretty big cast, but they all feel like part of your kind of adopted family as you're reading. And you're like, oh my gosh, I love this character. Yeah, one of those. But the setting and the storytelling is also just phenomenal, I have to say. It might, again, I have yet to finish Muse of Nightmares, so it might knock some of these off the top, but these are like my all-time favorites. I go through phases of like, these are my favorites right now. These are my, I would swear down on my grave and come back to favorites of my life. Wow, I'm doing a really dramatic video today, but it was really fun to go through and do this. It was super tough though, as I mentioned, because fantasy is such a huge part of my reading background, and that's where I started reading. That's where I love to go back to. Any new fantasy series that comes out, I'm immediately interested in it, high fantasy or otherwise. And I'm actually going to be making a series about my top 5 books in various different genres, which is super cool. I'm really happy I had the idea. So you'll be able to find that from me, either that or one of my writing videos every Friday on my new release schedule. And then, you know, you should be able to, if I release more, then you get more book and writing content, which is a win-win. But you'll only know if you're subscribed to me and you hit the bell notification. Oh my gosh, that was so clever of me. In order to be notified whenever I release new stuff. You like this video because that would just make me smile super big. You can let me know in the comments, again, if you agreed with my list, if there's some stuff you'd move around or whatever else it might be. I just love hearing from you. You can send me an email with your feedback. I just love to do the kind of converse with people who also love books and writing. And as always, it was an absolute pleasure, my good YouTube watchers out there. And for anyone who watched this far, thank you. And if indeed the Common Room Shop were able to watch this far, I'm honored and thank you. And I just want to buy your whole shop. One day I will, I promise. And I hope you all have a great day, morning, evening, whatever time of day it is for you. And I'll catch you in the next one.